So like before I tell you like what large language models are, I would like take a moment to tell you about language models. So language models are basically machine learning models that help you find the probability distribution over words. So if, you know, like how you write an email or a text message and the language model in your phone lets you predict what comes next. That is basically what a language model does. And when you talk about large language models, these are language models but trained on a huge data set. So what happens is that once the model gets this big with the large amount of data that it has, it starts to exhibit like amazing properties like zero-shot learning. It would not require any sort of labeled examples. So back in the day when we used to do code generation or sentiment analysis, we needed a lot of pre-trained examples in order for our model to be working fine. But with large language models, you don't have to do any explicit training. You just need a large corpus of data. And your large language model basically explicitly trains itself. And why is it important to the organizations is that there are tons and tons of applications of large language models. So starting from text generation, content generation, code generation, sentiment analysis, RAG applications. So to give you an example, right, like we do have most of our documentation open source, but sometimes it's really hard for the user to find out like where a particular piece of document lies. So a RAG application necessarily, what it does is that it takes a large language model, points it to the documentation and finds the correct answer for you within seconds. So basically like large language model helps you speed up your processes, find the correct answers without looking through 10,000 documents. So as I said that large language models are really huge applications. So I would say that you don't treat LLMs as something really fancy, but just another version of normal applications. So what is most important here is that Kubernetes helps you with the resource allocation. You can also scale using Kubernetes horizontally and vertically both. You can also identify the API quota limits. You can have better resource allocation techniques using Kubernetes. So I think that is the main role of Kubernetes when it comes to large language models. So the first problem that these people face and the organizations face is that the biggest question they're trying to answer is, do I just use something proprietary off the shelf, or do I self-host, or do I create my own large language model? So it's really hard to understand for certain people that how do we approach problems which require LLMs. So I would say like for something really simple like a proof of concept or a small project, maybe you can go with Open API. But if you're trying to do something on a private data set and something that you're going to use on a long-term basis, then I would suggest that you should go for a self-hosted large language model. And in my talk yesterday, I also went over that how you can containerize these large language models. And once you've containerized this, it is much easier to self-host the LLM. So yesterday my talk was about self-hosting large language models, where I talked about what are LLMs and what kind of open source and closed source large language models are available, and what are some models that you can use for commercial use. Besides that, I also talked about like, is there even a need to self-host? And like, when do you need to self-host your large language model? So as I was mentioning earlier, that people are often confused, like, do they use something proprietary off the shelf, or do they train their own LLM? Do they self-host? So I try to answer those questions by letting them know that it helps in cost, in privacy of your data, you don't have external dependencies. And then we also followed a demo where we demoed Whisper model, which is from OpenAI. We try to download that model and containerize it using container engines like Podman. And once you've containerized this model, we self-hosted it on a local machine. And then we can easily inference from this model and interact with it from either a terminal or from a UI like Streamlit. But besides this, like once you have a container image, it's super easy to just integrate it with any Kube environment. So the main takeaway from this talk was that a lot of beginners who were there in the talk, who barely knew anything about large language models but are well versed in the field of Kubernetes, they also learned a little bit more about LLMs and they try to figure out how they can bridge the gap between LLMs and Kubernetes, and how they can use Kubernetes to maximize the potential of large language models.